the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. It's 6 questions in less than 9 minutes because leaders know how to be concise. Well, let's jump right into it. First question, of course, in just a few sentences, tell us who you are and what you do.
What's up, everybody? My name is Skylar, Lysaker. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Greenz, and we make hemp apparel that benefits our customers and the planet. If you can't find me working on Greenz, I'm most likely making music or spending time with my girlfriend and family.
Fantastic. Question number 2, what's the best thing about working with the team?
I'd say my favorite thing about working with the team is just being able to sit down and be creative and get to hear where everybody's heads at in the company, in the journey, and taking all of our creative flow and our juices and synergizing them together to bring a vision to life.
Oh, I love that. That's great. Question number 3. I hear from other team leaders that it can be sometimes a challenge to get team members engaged. What are your thoughts on that?
I would say I haven't experienced as much engagement, but more keeping focused on the same vision. With my team being filled with young people and us being very excited about our future, and there's so much floating around and happening at once, it can be sometimes difficult to maintain focus on the vision without getting pulled into too many directions. So that's definitely the biggest struggle I think we have.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Thank you. Well, question number 4, what other successful team leaders, such as yourself, would you recommend be on my podcast?
What type of leaders have you been looking to speak with? I think that's
any kind. If they have worked with teams before, whether they're fairly new at it or even if they're very experienced, I'd love to hear different insights from different people.
I always like to recommend 2 of my business partners. One, his name is Jared Gobler, and the other, Hunter Bjork.
Fantastic. Thank you. Question number 5, what piece of advice would you give to other professionals running a team?
I would say the best piece of advice I can give to you, and it's definitely something to consider, is understand how everybody communicates in your team, number one, so that when you're relaying messages or you're relaying priorities and how important things are, that you understand their communication style. Don't get too caught up in the words, but just understand how they communicate, how they also communicate back with you. And get to learn a little bit about human psychology. There's a great book out there by Oren Klaff called Pitch Anything. It's about raising money, but you will learn some great psychological tricks on how people communicate and how your messaging goes through certain layers of the brain. So I think that's the number one thing that people need to consider.
Well, that's great. Thank you. 6th and final question. Tell us a little bit about your first job.
Right on. My first job was I was doing paper routes with my father at a very young age. He was operating a News Tribune in one of our local metropolis cities that we lived just outside of at the time. And he was essentially manager of all of the route drivers. But if route drivers did not show up to do the job, me and my dad would do the routes ourselves. So I spent a lot of time from ages 9 to 16 waking up between midnight and 1 in the morning and bundling together large piles of newspapers and delivering them to rural houses all over northern Minnesota.
That sounds great. Well, thank you. And thanks so much for being on the podcast today, Skylar. Where can people find you?
The best place you can find me is on LinkedIn. You can type in my name, Skylar Lysaker, or you can go check out the company Green Supply. That's really where I put a lot of my time into.
That's great. Thank you. Well, this is Sean Richards with the Team Engagement Podcast, where leaders of teams share their insights. You can find us by going to LinkedIn and searching up Blue Sky Business Consulting. Thanks very much.